Good Thursday afternoon to you, 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. Bomani Jones talking about the Browns quarterback situation and his thoughts on it.
That looks like a quarterback room where everyone will get a chance to start. and I don't mean that in no good way. Everybody, what is the difference between trying any of these out here on the field in terms of the bottom line? I don't pretend that I watch Kenny Pickett that closely. But was there any cause for optimism? Because when I saw what was going on, I didn't see it at all.
No, I mean, he got to play with a really good team for a couple games with the Eagles last year. Still looked like Kenny Pickett, just on a really good team. So, yeah.
Hey, man, I feel like is axiomatic. If you want to take a quarterback in the top 10, fine. If you want to take a quarterback between 10 and 20 or 10 and 19, that's cool. You want to take a quarterback with like the very last pick in the first round and anything after that, knock yourself out. You take a quarterback in the 20s, he stinks.
Except Lamar Jackson. He's like the only one.
32.
32. Okay, 32. That's right.
32.
That's right.
So I engineered that in. But you think about it. Every time somebody takes a quarterback, like who's that? The Giants took Jackson Dart.
Right.
You might as well have waited, man, because now he's going to stink. And so if you take him at the first pick of the second round, like Carolina did with Jimmy Clausen in the year of our Lord 2010, that does not stop you from taking. That's right. And it don't stop you from taking Superman in the next draft.
Relative to the Browns quarterbacks, have you seen what they've had the last couple of years? Just remember that. Now they have 4 chances to get mediocre. That's what they're looking at. Former NFL wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson asked a question that many Browns fans are wondering.
Key, will Shedeur be the franchise quarterback the Browns have been waiting for?
You know, he could be. We just need to see him on the field. But the little clips that I see, though, of him next to Dylan Gabriel, dropping back, throwing the football, he just looks like his stuff pops to me. For whatever reason, his footwork, his mechanics, they just look right. You know, now he just needs to do it on the field. Off the field, he's a gem that the city and the team certainly need because of what's going on in the history of the quarterback position for them. But his personality, all those sort of things, fit perfect in this situation. We just need to see him play on the field so we could, have a stamp of approval of, okay, they messed up. They missed on this one.
What do you think, Paul?
I don't know yet. Man, did y'all really listen to what he said? Mm-hmm. Like, they asked him about, Shedeur, right? And usually, like, they'd be like, oh, he's been looking good. He's been throwing. Like, he just talked about his attitude, hard work.
Yeah, that's a start.
Yeah, positive, optimistic.
Yeah.
But he didn't give us no indication on how he was playing.
That's enough. Because
these are things I expect from a rookie.
No, but
I expect you to be hardworking, good head on the shoulders, and positive.
Nope. Some rookies.
It ain't not one fifth rounder ain't giving you that.
No, it ain't not a ton of them.
A fifth rounder, they ain't coming in there acting like that.
Yeah, they are.
No,
yeah, they are. That's why they wind up getting sent home. Because they think they made it.
That was Paul Pierce, and they don't have fifth-rounders in the NBA. So, again, let's see what he looks like in pads. What a novel concept. Former NFL defensive back, Bryant McFadden, talking about his thoughts on the Browns' running game for 2025.
When you look at Nick Chubb, of course, with him now being signed to the Houston Texans, you can look at what's next for the backfield. Because one thing we've seen from Cleveland, not just a year ago, but going back to 2023, the running game was very, very influential in their overall team success on the offensive side of the football field. When you look at having Ford as RB1 right now, along with Judkins, I could easily see them relying on the running game heavily, even if Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback. Because if you look at the mantra for the Cleveland Browns, it's about running the football, not turning it over, and playing stout defense. We already highlighted Myles Garrett. He's going to be one of the prime catalysts to get things going on the defensive side. But whoever the starting quarterback is, if they can just play smart, sound football, they're going to rely heavily on the running game. And to your point, we know about the potential and the talent that Quinshon Judkins has. I don't expect to see him be RB1 in the beginning of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Judkins take over that role midway through the season.
I think he's going to be RB1 from the beginning of the season. We'll see. Time will tell. Let's turn our attention to the Guardians. Looking to make it 2 in a row last night over the Giants in San Francisco. On the mound, it was Logan Allen taking on Justin Verlander for the Giants. Logan Allen was locked in pretty good for the Guardians as well. Ends up going 5 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs with 4 strikeouts. Guardians offense got it going early, first inning. Jose Ramirez at the plate, man on second, and this one is over the second baseman's head. Kyle Manzardo will chug around third and score to give the Guardians a 1-0 lead. Still 1-0 in the 4th inning, 2 on for Daniel Schneemann, and Schneemann hits one to left center opposite field. Plenty of distance, and it's gone, a 3-run homer to make it 4-0, Schneemann's 8th of the year. Bottom of the 5th, Heliot Ramos, a 2-run shot to cut the Guardians' lead to just 2, but the bullpen came in and held the Giants in check. Guardians win it 4-2 to take the first 2 games of the series.
Obviously, the trip didn't start the way you guys wanted to in Seattle, but how nice has it been able to bounce back and go back to playing your guys' brand of baseball?
Yeah, I think that was a good old-fashioned Guardians dub. That's what we try to do every night. Put a couple runs on the board, and our pitchers are going to do their jobs, and hopefully get a couple more.
We've seen it over the last year and a half. Schnee's got opposite field power, and, man, he's just been such a big spotlight on this team this year. Going from starting the year as a utility guy, through the course of the year, things happen, and now he's playing a great second base. He's still one of our best outfielders defensively and has really been a big spark plug with the bat, and really in the middle of that lineup has been pretty stable for us. So Schnee's a really good ball player, and it's showing it.
Guardians will be going for the sweep in a little bit in San Francisco. Gavin Williams taking on Logan Webb tomorrow. They head off to face the A's for a 3-game weekend series. Time for us to take a quick timeout. Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, $10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
Browns are up first on Sports4CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Besides Shedeur Sanders, I mean, we got to hear everything the guy does. He drives 100 miles. Who cares? He goes to the bathroom yesterday. Who cares? He throws 11 for 11 in practice. Who cares? He's not going to start. So can somebody talk about somebody else on the team besides Shedeur Sanders? Thanks.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. So, Ashley, again, Shedeur Sanders is widely popular with the fan base. You have opinions on him either way. That's why we talk about him. Now, we did not talk about his speeding ticket where he drove over 100 miles an hour yesterday. Obviously, not a great decision. Just your thoughts.
I think it's unfortunate to get into any kind of off the field trouble like this, especially when you're a rookie, but also when you're in the middle of a heated position battle. And I mean, to that caller's point, anytime an athlete of this kind of caliber gets into an off the field incident, it's going to be reported. And I mean, I've seen people be like, well, what about Myles Garrett? Well, we covered that in 2022 as well. I mean, we've talked about it in relation to this as an example of how things like speeding can get much worse potentially. So I think in the Browns' eyes, it's like it has to go into the hopper in terms of how you're evaluating these quarterbacks. And if any one of these other guys gets into any kind of trouble, like a speeding ticket, I know it's easy for people on the outside to be like, well, it's just a speeding ticket. Why is it newsworthy? I mean, I think it's the speed, yes, and it is the name recognition. And being an NFL quarterback in general just comes with more responsibility. It's part of the job description. Really and truly it is. I just got done saying this. I think quarterback in the NFL is unlike any other position in all of sports, not just amongst football players. There's just an immense amount of responsibility. Everything you do off the field is going to be accounted for, whether you like it or not. And yeah, I think this is an unfortunate incident that, hopefully will be a turning point, or a learning point, I should say, for everyone involved.
Yeah, and again, young kid, you don't want to. Make sure he learns from it. You don't. I mean, if you want to go back 30 some years and looked at some of the stupid stuff I did when I wouldn't like it either. So that's age gives you a little perspective, and again, let's hope he learns from it. That's the bottom line with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's the most important thing. I've also said I don't think that this incident means by any means, oh, he's out of the quarterback competition or he's not going to play here. No, I think it's something that you have to learn from. And it's, I think, eye-opening in the sense that, like all eyes really are on you now. Stuff like this is going to be talked about. It reflects not just on you, but on the team, and it's going to be out there. So I think it needs to be a learning point, and, safe driving, all that. I think most people could use a lesson in that in their lifetime. And I think all things considered, no one was hurt. This wasn't as serious as it could have been. So hopefully it still proves the point and teaches the lesson that needs to be taught here in terms of how you're conducting yourself off the field.
So Aditi Kinkabala had her thoughts on a quarterback, not Shedeur Sanders, but Kenny Pickett.
Everybody keeps underselling Kenny Pickett because of what happened in Pittsburgh. You just heard Kyle Wilson say how awful his experience with the Jets was. Sam Darnold is a little bit more careful, just like Kenny, and won't say it. But again, look at the model of Sam Darnold. You go to a completely dysfunctional organization, a completely dysfunctional situation. You get a year to reset with an organization. In Sam Darnold's case, it was San Francisco, where top down, everybody actually knows what they're doing and communicates with each other and run a legitimate offense. You learn, you take advantage of that, and then you get a chance and you look like a completely different guy than the guy that was called a bust. Now, I can't see the future. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Kenny Pickett's going to have an MVP caliber year. But I just really don't understand why no one will give this young man the benefit of the doubt.
Actually, it's kind of interesting. I know Mary Kay Cabot has kind of said the same thing about Kenny Pickett. And again, Browns fans seem to be very dismissive of him. I think he has a chance. I'm not going to say he's the favorite, but if he goes and plays well in training camp, he could be the starter week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you talk about who's going to be the starter week 1, for me, I think it's going to be one of the veterans. It's either going to be Kenny Pickett or it's going to be Joe Flacco. And as Mary Kay has said before, making a similar argument, like in Pittsburgh, when Kenny Pickett was there was turmoil in terms of Matt Canada was still the offensive coordinator, and they were really struggling in those first couple of years post Big Ben. And famously, in that Monday night 2023 game, the one where Nick Chubb got hurt, the Steelers won that game, and Pittsburgh fans were chanting to fire Matt Canada in that game. And obviously they did that. He wasn't there last year. And I just think there's some truth to that, yes. But the other thing for me is, like, when you talk about dysfunction, I mean, the Browns have had their fair share of offensive dysfunction over the last 3 decades, not just recent years, but the Browns have struggled with their own offense. So to that point, like, I don't know, I can't tell the future either, but like, is it going to be the best situation for him? I think that's all still to be determined as the Browns install this new offense that certainly as concepts we're familiar with. If it looks like what we think it's going to, it's a very quarterback-friendly offense. And I will say the Browns, it seems like, certainly seem to think like he is that type of player, like Sam Darnold, that they get him out of one situation. He went to Philly. He learned a lot in that offense, and working with Kellen Moore, he got a Super Bowl ring, and now he's here. So it's time to show it all. So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, even though fans just kind of want to skip over Kenny Pickett and get right to Joe Flacco. They're still very much in a competition. Like, for me, what is so interesting is I keep thinking about this quote, though, we got from Kenny Pickett about it takes 2 years to be in a system to fully learn it. The problem is he doesn't have 2 years here. Nobody has 2 years here. This is an open competition now. And for Joe Flacco, at this stage of his career, entering year 18, it's an offense he is very familiar with already. It's certainly not going to take 2 years. So for me personally, I would still give Flacco the edge, but I can't say for sure that the Browns don't feel the exact opposite way on this and would give Kenny Pickett the edge. It still is too early to know.
So you were at all the mini camps, at all the OTAs. What are your takeaways from mini camp about the quarterbacks and the pass catchers? I know you've written on this. Take us through that.
Yeah. I think with the quarterbacks, to kind of piggyback off of the last point there, I think things stand where we thought they did heading into this little summer break. And for me, I think the pecking order in a lot of ways is still Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, based on the reps we saw. I guess in theory, you could flip-flop Gabriel and Flacco. Joe didn't get a lot of reps this spring. I mean, a big part of that, I think, is Joe Flacco doesn't need those reps, but they were experimenting more with Kenny Pickett, with Dillon Gabriel. Those guys just had more on their plate as they try to install this offense. And I think that's kind of why the pecking order is what it is. It doesn't mean it can't change. I think Shedeur Sanders did what he needed to do with the reps he got to earn some first team reps come training camp. So that's really where I think things stand with the quarterbacks. And then with the pass catchers, I mean, the number one question I've gotten from fans is who besides Jerry Jeudy has looked good? And my answer has been, I thought Jamari Thrash had a really, really great spring, the second-year receiver. Last year he had issues dropping the ball, did not have that issue this spring. And then Harold Fannin, the rookie tight end, is my other one. I think he really took advantage when David Njoku was not here for the voluntary portion of the offseason that we got to see that was open to us. And the new tight ends coach, Christian Jones, when we asked him about this last week, because Harold Fannin's another guy, the ball comes to him, he's catching it. Like, I did not see the ball on the ground near Harold Fannin a lot this spring. And he said he thinks they only charted one drop for him all of spring. So for a rookie, that's pretty good. And I think he took advantage of those extra reps he got in David's absence.
So do you think they add a veteran wide receiver either at cutdown day or via trade? You look at it, the Packers have an abundance. The Patriots are two teams that come to mind.
Never say never, but at this stage, I don't think so on the same hand, just because I think they view both Harold Fannin and David Njoku as like bigger, wider receivers. We're not going to see them doing 3 wide as much this year. They're going to use more multiple tight end looks. And I also think they're going to look to get Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson, their 2 rookie running backs, involved in the pass game. And for the last few years, I think I've looked at their receiver room and been like, well, they have to be adding something, right? And then they don't, because I always think they like their receiver room more than outsiders do or analysts do. And I think that that's been a mistake in recent years, and they should have added to there, but I truly can't see them going that route right now. I think they've got it worked around in other ways, and the offense is really going to need more tight end help than anything.
Ashley Bastock and I can step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about the Browns defense. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, former NFL defensive back Bryant McFadden, talking about Myles Garrett being on the back half of his career.
Well, as a former Steeler, I would hope that he would start to hit the back end of his career, because he's terrorized the Pittsburgh Steelers throughout his professional career with the Cleveland Browns. But to answer your question, no, not at all. Myles Garrett can be 30, he can be 31, he can be 32. This is a guy that is always highly conditioned. He works out extremely hard in the offseason to continue to improve in his craft. And I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. And the same can be said for the Cleveland Browns, hence them rewarding him the way they did. Had another double-digit sack season a year ago, 14 sacks to be exact. And he did so while receiving all the attention from opposing offensive linemen, right? So now when you look at the defensive front potentially being a little better, that actually could help Myles Garrett continue to improve in that sack number from a year ago.
So Ashley, I know you wrote an article why you spent the final day of minicamp watching the defensive line. Take us through that, and I agree with Bryant McFadden. It doesn't look like he's slowing down at all.
Oh, it doesn't. And I think the D-line could potentially be the deepest position group on this roster. And it also has one of the more underrated position battles going on that's going to be going on this training camp, because that second edge rusher spot opposite of Myles Garrett is wide open right now. I mean, I think you have guys like Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire seem to be the front runners for me. The Browns also signed Joe Tryon-Shoyinka from the Bucks in free agency. They have Obo Okoronkwo back. Those four, I think, are all going to play. But I would give Alex and Isaiah the edge in that starting edge rusher spot, pun intended. And what makes it so interesting is now, hopefully, the Browns have figured out D tackle as well. You have Mason Graham, your number 5 overall pick. I think everyone sees him as an immediate contributor. And the question is going to be, is Mike Hall, everyone has said, is going to be on pace to start the season, it sounds like. But we haven't seen him out there yet as he continues to recover from the knee injury he suffered in Week 18 in Baltimore last year. So those two guys can both pressure quarterbacks. And the Browns haven't been able to figure that out and get consistent pressure from the inside. And that'll help a guy like Myles draw attention away from him, open things up for him a little bit more. And the same can be said if they can get production from that second edge spot as well. So to me, this D-line continues to be fascinating. And I think Jim Schwartz is not going to have any problem playing 8 or 9 guys like he usually does in this defense.
Do you think they've upgraded my perception is the D tackle is upgraded substantially and then Malik Collins is another guy. And Jim Schwartz usually has one of those. At least he did, and he hadn't had one with the Browns.
Yeah, I think it's an attempted upgrade, but to be determined. And I say that because it was an upgrade a couple of years ago when they went out and got Dalvin Tomlinson. They paid big money for Dalvin Tomlinson, and everyone's like, well, that was it. And then Dalvin struggled a little bit here in his couple of years here, and, he's not here anymore. They've decided to part ways. And, you think in the draft, okay, you used your second-round pick last year in Mike Hall. You get Mason Graham, who everyone sort of agrees is the prime D tackle in the 2025 draft. So now it's about putting it all together. On paper, it's certainly an upgrade, knowing how good Mason Graham was in college. But I think we still have to see it. I temper expectations. Yes, the Malik Collins role. Jim Schwartz always has somebody like that on this D-line. Last year, though, it was Quentin Jefferson. And Quentin Jefferson was struggling to get on the field, and eventually at the deadline, they just let him go as well. So in theory, yes, I think it's better. I'm excited to see them. I certainly think they have potential, but I would urge everyone to temper expectations until we actually see them in action.
And in pads, I got you. I understand.
Yes.
You wrote a story about undrafted Browns safety that has the perfect motto that explains his rise to potential starter. Take us through that and who you're referring to.
Yeah, Ronnie Hickman, who is already entering year 3 in the NFL, which is crazy. But, I think Cleveland fans are familiar with him because he's, of course, an Ohio State guy. He went undrafted 2 years ago, played his way onto the Browns roster back in 2023. He got 3 preseason picks. And when we talked to him back then, at the time, he made the comment about somebody asked him, oh, did you breathe like a sigh of relief on cutdown day that you made it through? And he said, no, the rent's due every day in this league. And I had a chance to talk with him at minicamp last week, and I didn't ask him a question in regards to that, more so just about how the time has gone really quickly for him. He's already entering year 3. And at the end of his answer, he said, well, the rent's due every day. And I stopped him and I'm like, I seem to remember you saying that right after you made the team as a rookie. Is that kind of a motto for you? And he said, oh, yeah, like it's been with me. And, you know, he talks to safety coach Ephraim Banda that whenever he's looking for motivation, he remembers that feeling of sitting there on draft weekend and not getting a phone call. That Jim Schwartz really does a great job of implying that rent is due everyday mentality. And look, I mean, Ronnie Hickman's gone from undrafted guy to somebody playing key snaps to now potential starter, because that safety room looks a lot different. Ronnie McLeod retired. DeAnthony Bell, who also was a key reserve, he left in free agency and is with Seattle now. The Browns obviously decided to let Juan Thornhill go. So now it's time to see, okay, there's not somebody you went out and got a free agency star to fill that spot. I think they want to see what Ronnie Hickman can do, and he has a chance here. So again, I think it's in terms of defensive position battles, it could be an interesting one.
When you look at it, how important is that safety that he's in theory going to be the starter? You mentioned Juan Thornhill. He just didn't produce like you needed him to.
He didn't, and you know, I think Grant Delpit is at his best in the box and stopping the run, especially. Like Grant is really good at those things. And you need somebody, I think, who can be a bit more of a ball hawk in that back end, cause some more turnovers. And Ronnie has shown in certain ways that he can do that. But last year, too, he also struggled with a high ankle sprain. So he didn't have that consistent availability and really get into a swing with that. But people may remember, I think his most memorable play to this point in his career is the pick 6 he had in the week 17 game back in 2023 against the Jets when they clinched a playoff spot. And he made a crucial play in that game. So I think they're going to need more of that sort of stuff from him, and more production from that safety room overall. Look, this is a team that forced 12 takeaways last year. That's not good enough by any stretch of the imagination, and you're not going to win football games like that. So they do need help in that regard in general.
Ashley Bastock and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about season expectations for the Browns. Sports4CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns with Ashley Bastock, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Bryant McFadden from CBS Sports. His thoughts on how the Browns will do in 2025.
So if you're Cleveland, you're playing against a team in recent week 1 moments, they haven't fared the best in Cincinnati. That has been an Achilles heel for them in getting off to horrible, slow starts. If you can win that ball game, now you can go into week 2 with momentum. But if you happen to lose that ball game, week 1, the week of unknowns, you got Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, veteran quarterbacks that play at a high level. That could be a very, very difficult task in terms of September football. But in totality, Chris, this was the team that won 3 games last year, right? They were 3-14. I foresee them winning 1 more ball game. I see best case scenario for the Cleveland Browns, 4-13. It's a very, very difficult schedule. They're playing in a difficult division, but I think they can muster up 4 games, and the winnable games could potentially be, right, just as I look at their schedule, Chris, the Raiders, Tennessee, the Jets, maybe Minnesota, depending on what's going on with J.J. McCarthy. And you know, regardless of how bad the Browns have been, they've always found a way to win a game in their division.
Ashley, I know they're a 3-win team, but you look at, and I know their schedule's tough, especially the beginning of it. It seems to me there's more talent on that team than 3, 4, 5 wins. And they always win 2. The AFC North beats each other up.
Yeah.
It's either 2 or 3 wins in the division when you're on a down year. Heck, they won 2 in the division last year.
They did, yeah. I was going to say, no one thought you wouldn't look at the 3 wins last year and think, oh, 2 of those were division wins if you weren't following along closely. But they were. I mean, there were 2 division wins that they probably shouldn't have gotten given the circumstances and everything that was going wrong last year. Yeah, I tend to think that estimate is a little bit low for me. Like last year was probably a bit of an anomaly for a handful of reasons. I think like a true Kevin Stefanski team, like your ceiling is probably, or your floor, I should say, is probably like 6 or 7 wins in a down year, quote unquote. Like that's what we got in 2022. And to me, that should be the worst of it in terms of not being an anomaly. Like I do think in many ways, the last 2 years were kind of anomalies, right? Like maybe they weren't quite what we know because they got embarrassed essentially in the wild card round in 2023. Maybe they weren't an 11-win team that year, but the same token, I don't think they were a 3-win team this past season either. So yeah, I will agree though, the beginning of this schedule is really difficult because in the first 6 games, you have to play all 3 division opponents, and you also have to play the 3 best NFC North teams in that same stretch, including the Vikings in London. And by the way, the Vikings will have been in London for a week by the time they play that game there. That's their 2nd game there. So they're going to be adjusted. And we've seen teams when that's happened before, you know, if Jacksonville stays over there twice, like that second game, they look more settled in than their opponent typically. So that's going to be a struggle in and of itself. And yeah, I will say it is fair though to say in the AFC North, you truly never know what's going to happen. And some weird things are going to happen that there's no way you can predict in June.
So the other thing that's kind of interesting, Benedictine High School alumni Jerome Baker signed with the Browns, his hometown team, in this offseason. He was mic'd up during minicamp. Let's listen in.
Hey, I'm big bro. I ain't up yet. I'm big bro. I ain't up. There's 104 days of summer vacation, and can't come along just to end it. Come on, let's get right, do it again. Ooh. Hey, Mom. And Dad. Hey, Baby J. A little wrong.
And Ashley, I think that's a little bit of an underrated signing. I know, you know, he might be more of a rotational kind of guy. They've improved. I think they've improved the middle of that defense with the 2 D tackles, Mason Graham, and then you get Schlesinger or Baker. The linebacking core should be a little deeper.
Yeah, I think I'm really curious to see what he can do. The Miami defense, the fits and stuff are a bit different than the Browns defense, but like the linebacker's job in this scheme is to sort of clean everything up. And I think obviously not having JOK this year is a huge loss for this football team. So adding Carson Schlesinger in the draft is a big deal. And Jerome Baker to me is a fairly good signing for this team because they also like to rotate those linebackers. And you also got Mahmoud Diabate, who played a larger role last year. Winston Reed, who got thrust into a larger role last year. Both those guys are back. Devin Bush had some nice games with this team last year. So, and of course, Jordan Hicks, who knows a Jim Schwartz defense better than anyone. Played with him in Philly. He's in his second year now in Cleveland, but he's going to be another key. But Baker, I think, certainly going to be a rotational player, certainly going to probably help them on special teams as well. They need help in both of those areas. Special teams were kind of a mess at times last year, and more linebacker production without JOK is going to be huge.
So if the Browns are gonna be a 7, 8, 9 win team, what are some of the things that have to go well? I don't think we're gonna get elite quarterback play. So excluding that from the mix, what has to go well for them to be right around 500?
Well, I'll say serviceable quarterback play early is going to be key. Not turning the football over is going to be key. On the same note, getting takeaways is going to be key. I mean, their net differential and the takeaway giveaway was the worst in the league. They had the fewest takeaways, I think, in the league. They had the most giveaways, I want to say, in the league. It was all bad. It was bad last year, okay? So they have to take care of the football, and they have to take the football and be disruptive. And I think you do have to steal some games early because of this schedule. You have to win some games early, whether it's division, whether it's NFC North. You have to win some games that not a lot of people are going to predict you to win, because I think the key to winning that many games is you have to be mathematically in it and hanging around for as long as possible. They were eliminated early last year in November, I want to say. You have to be just kind of lurking, just kind of hanging around into late December if you can. And that happened a few years ago in that 2022 season where they won 7 or 8 games. They were mathematically, it was not likely they were going to make the playoffs, but they were mathematically in it up until the second to last week of the season. And I do think that helps keep morale up, and you can manufacture a few more wins that way, even.
Ashley Bastock, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Ashley Bastock, make sure you check her out. Great Browns coverage. She is Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, film breakdown, video analysis, some position battles from Lance Reisland of the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. That's straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Time for a video breakdown, film analysis. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. So, Lance, some position battles, and I'm intrigued by it. Let's start with defensive end.
Well, obviously you have Myles Garrett. They did a really good job. I think Mason Graham's going to be outstanding. But what they did was they've kind of made these young guys. They've really improved who they are. This Isaiah McGuire and Isaiah Wright, and those are 2 guys we're going to look at, because Isaiah McGuire, they both have long body types. So this is from training camp. Mandatory minicamp, and they're just kind of working on their bend. I was very impressed with their ability to run, both of them. The first one was Wright. Second one was McGuire. Now you're going to see, this is when Wright last year, a couple years, he started coming to his own. When he came out of UAB, didn't have to do much when he was there. So really impressed with his ability. Now for me, it comes down to a couple things for who plays, who's the starter. First of all, they're going to play all 8, so they're going to play. But as a starter, I think it comes down to who can play the run better on first down, who can rush the passer on third down, and then more importantly, who could be position flexible. And Isaiah McGuire is going to have to show he can do that, because I think Alex Wright's best time last year when he was down at that 3 technique. So with Mason Graham, now I think that, once again, these guys are all going to play. This position group, to me, is interesting, because these guys are 8, 9, 10, 11 deep here at this position. This is the best group they have.
Yeah, and it's intriguing. Both of those guys, McGuire flashed when Wright got hurt. Wright had flashed before he got hurt. If those 2 guys are rotational pieces, all of a sudden Andrew Berry's drafts look a little bit better.
You got it, and that's exactly right. So these guys kind of fit the mold of what Schwartz wants. They're position flexible, they're long, they're really strong at the point of attack. Alex Wright has been outstanding. I think McGuire's going to make that same type of progression. So now, like you said, now you have these rotational pieces. You can move Alex Wright down inside. Hopefully McGuire can move down inside a little bit if they need to. You still have Obo, obviously Garrett, you have Mason Graham, you have Hall, you have Shelby Harris. You have these guys who are interchangeable parts that really kind of do what Jim Schwartz wants him to do, right? Get off the ball, get off field, penetrate, be a pain in the butt in the backfield. It'll be interesting to see both these guys, but I think they have a chance, both of them, to be pretty good this year.
Another position, and this one's going to be kind of interesting, the linebackers. They signed Jerome Baker, local kid, Bush, and Diabate. Take us through what you see here.
Well, seeing these guys at mandatory minicamp, rookie minicamp, you think Schlesinger is going to be a guy. He's a highly impressive. And once again, I didn't do my homework like I should have on him coming out of UCLA, but he's been outstanding. See Devin Bush here fits this scheme perfectly. He's better when he's downhill. Did a great job. You're going to see Diabate. All these guys, Diabate does such a nice job of his length, using his length. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. You're going to see him here in coverage during mandatory camp. You're going to see Devin Bush working this vertical drill to get his depth. So they have three guys that can really change pace. You're going to see them. They do a little sprint drill here. And then you got Jerome Baker. Jerome Baker, kid out of Benny, Ohio State. I remember him at, Jerome Baker, the touchdown maker coming out of Benny. These guys are all talented. Again, there's some certain keys to see who's going to play more. Who can be possession flexible? Who can play all three of those positions? Who can cause havoc in the backfield? And who can cover in space and tackle in space? And all these guys, once again, without JOK, this is a position group that's much better than I thought watching them through the first couple weeks of practice. Obviously, when the pads go on, we'll know more, but this group has a chance to be pretty good. Long, athletic guys who like to play downhill in a Jim Schwartz scheme.
So the question that I would ask you about the linebackers, do you think they play a lot of two linebackers because of the safeties and the corners, or do you think they're more of a three linebacker defense this time around?
Well, you want to have some position flexibility, just like if you think about what the Browns can do with Fannin and Njoku, right? You want to be able to play nickel, maybe get Newsome in there at the nickel back if it's a passing team. Obviously, if it's more of a run team, you want to play three linebackers. But what teams like to do is show you one thing, give you the other. So the guy who can cover and the guy who can play in space, which most of these guys can, that helps them not to get caught against teams who like to do, if they were to play the Browns would go in 12 personnel, right? And now you're going to bring in three backers and they're going to try to create a mismatch with Fannin and Njoku. That's what they have to do. The guy who can cover in space, blitz, do multiple things, play multiple spots. Those are the guys who play in Schwartz's scheme because of the fact, if not, then you go nickel and then Newsom has to be that guy.
So the last position we're going to look at is the single high safety, and Browns have been missing this. It was supposed to be Juan Thornhill. He didn't have an interception in his time here, which is as much of it that's condemning for a free safety. So take us through this battle and what you see there.
Well, you got a couple guys here that I really, really like. Obviously Ronnie Hickman did some really good things there. You got Kazee. So you're going to see here that Kazee was really impressive in camp, his ability to move, cover multiple positions. I love his ability to play both in and out, right? So he can play down the box like Delpit, but he can also play that one high hat. Hickman's a guy, this is from last year's camp, Hickman's a guy who's really improved, especially coverage skills in the slot. And that's really important. And then Jenkins is a guy who is a signing out of, for the Browns. He's been around for a lot of years. He's 31 years old. You're going to see him right here. Last year against Bo Nix, he closes. Now, this is a guy who's 6'1", 220 pounds, so he can play for Delpit, give him a break. But he's also a ball hawk. Now, if you go back to you and I, when you and I covered the draft, I really, really wanted the Browns to go after Xavier Watson that third round, and I wanted Billy Bowman in the last round because that free safety has to create some turnovers. Now, one of these three guys, I think they're all able to cover. I think they're all able to play multiple positions. They can play down the box. They can cover over the top. The guy who can create turnovers is the guy who's going to play.
We've heard Jim Schwartz talk about Ronnie Hickman, and he said he thought he took a big step last year and then got hurt. So that the expectation is that Hickman is that guy.
Well, yeah, and if you have a chance to take Xavier Watts, who had, ton of interceptions at Notre Dame, played a very high-level scheme there for the Fighting Irish, and you saw him, in the playoffs, how good he was. I was big on Xavier Watts because I thought it was a position of need. Obviously, they're really high on Ronnie Hickman. If then you go after who you want. One of those guys, once again, I think they do a lot of really good things. They got to be able to tackle in space, but the thing that Jim Schwartz's defense is missing, even 2 years ago when they were elite, that guy's got to create more turnovers. That defense as a whole has to create more turnovers to help that offense that's going to be a work in progress.
So here's the $1 million question, and we've heard Jim Schwartz kind of say they needed to create more turnovers. What do you do to create turnovers if you're a defense? How do you drill it? How do you try to create more turnovers?
Well, this is great because I always get to reference my dad on this. But we go into practice. They do a great job. They start off with every day in practice. The offense starts off with ball protection. The entire defense starts off with stripping, scoop and score, all those kind of things, punching the ball out, the peanut punch. They do that every single day. The other thing you do is you create situations that create havoc. And the number one way you do that is you win on first down, because now it's second and long, then you can maybe get it to third and long. And when you get it to second and third and long, you can be exotic with your looks. You can bring in 4 pass rushers because you don't have to worry about stopping the run. Then they speed up the quarterback, and then those really good corners can get some picks or the safety over the top. So it starts with repping it. Then for me, it comes down to winning on first down so you can create havoc on second, third down and force that quarterback into bad decisions.
When you look in retrospect, do you think that was a big part of it? They weren't winning on first down enough last year?
Absolutely. And there's too many situations where the offensive coordinator is, once you get to 2nd and 6 or under, the offensive coordinator is now in command, meaning he can run, he can pass. So going back to what you said about 3 linebackers or 2 linebackers, well, if it's second and long, you're going nickel and creating hard looks. But if you lose on first down as a defense, now you got to go base because you got to stop the run still because they could run the ball. You got to put your best run stoppers in there and things like that. So if you don't win on first down, you don't get to create the looks you want. You don't get to dictate the pace. The offense coordinator does. That first down is huge for both sides of the ball, especially the Browns defense.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Cleveland.com and The Plain Dealer. Really good film breakdown, video analysis, dealing with some positional battles to keep your eye on in training camp. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report and the Barking Browns podcast straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Former NFL defensive back Bryant McFadden, his thoughts on the Browns quarterback competition.
Well, I see this battle being won by Joe Flacco. I think Joe Flacco will win the starting job, and the reason why is because it seems like Kevin Stefanski, head coach Kevin Stefanski, has a liking to Joe Flacco. He's called him, in the midst of the season, and Joe Flacco has answered the call. Not to mention Joe Flacco he's familiar with this offensive playbook. That helps. Then when you look at how this quarterback room will shake up as we get ready for week 1, I foresee the Cleveland Browns having 3 quarterbacks on their opening day roster. Joe Flacco as the starter, Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel. I think they potentially would try to trade Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett will be the odd man out based on what we're hearing so far throughout the offseason regimen. And if Joe Flacco is the starting job, it doesn't really make any sense to have a veteran, right? A veteran on the roster, especially if you have 2 guys that you invested a draft pick in, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And oh, by the way, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders have really done a really good job throughout the offseason regimen. So they have really earned leverage on the football field by showcasing what they can do. Now, will Joe Flacco remain the starting quarterback throughout the entire season, Chris? That remains to be seen. But I do believe Joe Flacco will be the opening day starter against the Cincinnati Bengals.
With that, let's welcome in Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the Barking Browns podcast. They're not in pads yet, so can we get the rookies in pads before we? And the other thing is, Joe Flacco had a tough time beating out Anthony Richardson last year. So remember that. It's not the Joe Flacco that came off the couch and won 5. He couldn't beat out Anthony Richardson. They put him in, and they put Anthony Richardson back in. So I think this thing's still wide open.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think it's still wide open. Like, I'm leaning towards Joe Flacco just for, the veteran and the familiarity and some things like that, where I think, he can kind of hit the ground running maybe a little bit quicker and that sort of thing. But yeah, we talked about this last week. I think we said, when will we have a better idea of what this quarterback, the depth chart's looking like? We said, yeah, probably when joint practices start up. So yeah, I think ultimately I'm leaning towards that's how it will play out, the two rookies behind Joe Flacco. But yeah, I think we're continuing to try to, fit a square peg in a round hole. It's just like we don't have enough information quite yet. And I get it. It's the dead period. We're trying to make content and fill some things. I think they lean towards Flacco just because that opening 6 weeks is going to be really, really tough. But yeah, no, I think it's, again, I'll say this until we get to joint practices. It's too early to really make any of those calls.
Yeah, and if it is Flacco, the thing that I have a hard time getting rid of Kenny Pickett with, you better be really sure Joe Flacco's in his 40s. He is a big hit away from seeing a lot of time where he can't play football. So you got to be sure if you're going to get rid of Kenny Pickett. All right, we told you earlier in the show, Shedeur Sanders got a speeding ticket for driving over 100 miles an hour. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi was asked about that.
I'm sure that they'll have a meeting with him and hear his side and, explain you got to take care of yourself and you got to make right decisions and let this be a learning experience for you so that nothing worse than this happens. So. And listen, it's not the end of the world. It's disappointing, I'm sure, to the Browns and to Coach Prime. I mean, 101 is excessive speed.
Yes.
But, again, he'll learn from it, I'm sure.
And again, young guy, don't want to kill him for it, Jacob, but yeah, I mean, that's lucky something didn't happen. Nothing good. The old, and again, I am the son of a Cleveland cop. The old saying was, nothing good happens after 2 o'clock. Nothing good happens over 75 miles an hour. Nothing.
Yeah, no. You just think what happens at 101 miles an hour if a tire blows. Yeah, you're lucky that's all it was just getting pulled over for it. And then Mary Kay had reported that this was actually the second speeding ticket he's had in 2 weeks. And so I'm kind of there with where Tony Grossi is, where I'm like, yeah, I don't necessarily think it's the end of the world because nothing happened. It could have. I mean, a third of traffic fatalities last year in Ohio were results of speeding. So like that, there is there's a world where that turns out a lot worse than what it was. So I'm not going to completely condemn the kid for it in this situation. I do think the Browns will talk to him. They'll have a conversation. I'm like, get him a driver. Like if that's what the problem is, he can't stop speeding, something of that nature, just to have that conversation. I don't think it's the end of the world, but now that it's happened a couple of times in a couple of weeks, it is starting to build a little bit of a pattern that kind of goes back to some of the maturity concerns that we had about him going into the draft. I don't like seeing this especially in the dead period when it's supposed to be just put your head down and work. And now this is popping up quarterbacks for off the field stuff. And it's just, I'm exhausted of quarterbacks off the field stuff being the conversations we've got to have. So I hope that this is the last something like this happens and that, he gets his head on straight and can but it does concern me to an extent that 101 miles an hour, man, like, because I some people told me like, oh, everybody speeds. Everybody doesn't go 101 miles an hour. Like that is incredibly dangerous and reckless. And you can be arrested for reckless op doing that. So he's kind of lucky that didn't happen. So hopefully this is that and it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and it goes under the not a great decision category. I'm curious, you wrote an article kind of diving in, revisiting the Browns 2023 draft class. Take us through that and kind of what you found.
So had a lot of fun doing this. So I've done Andrew Berry's first 4 drafts over at the OBR. So the 2020 draft through the 2023 draft. And one thing that I kind of really came to now, some of this is still on projection because I prefer not to reevaluate draft picks until it's been 3 seasons, and the 2023 class has only had 2. But I feel like I've seen a pattern of him improving as a drafter overall. Like Cedric Tillman was the first pick. He was in the 3rd round because they traded the 2nd round pick. They traded back with the Jets to get Elijah Moore. And so most of his picks were on day 3, but he got several contributors on day 3. DeJuan Jones, day 3. He's shown some flashes. Isaiah McGuire looked really good, was a day 3 pick. There were 2 UDFAs in Mahmoud Diabate and Ronnie Hickman in that class. To go with Cam Mitchell has shown some flashes, and I think that was a successful draft pick. With Tillman and Luke Whippler and even DeJuan Jones to an extent, I think it's a little early because of injuries. We haven't really seen Luke Whippler at all, but like I'm leaning towards Tillman being a good, solid contributor because the last time I saw him, I've actually seen him on an NFL field be really good. It's just a really small sample size. So I said maybe it's a little incomplete on the grade. I'm leaning towards a hit, but like it's a little incomplete. But I've seen over the trend, he's made the most with some of the draft capital that he's had in recent years and finding solid contributors on day 3 of the draft. And so it really kind of gives me hope for last year's class and especially this year's class, just to show that his process has kind of grown and evolved. And he's gotten to the point where there's a lot of misses, a lot of high misses in the early days of his drafting. And, Howie Roseman took about 7 years or so as a GM before he really got the drafting under his belt and before the Eagles really started winning. And I've kind of seen that with those guys being solid contributors and players and taking steps forward, and just Andrew Berry finding more and more young players to balance out some of those bigger contracts he's given out. And I do think that he's gotten a lot better as his time as general manager has gone on. So
Ravens signed Jair Alexander to a contract yesterday. I think it was $6 million for a year. How do you draw a parallel to that and Greg Newsome with the Browns?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, what? Because Jair Alexander has played like no more than like 450 snaps in 3 of the last 4 years or something like that. And he's only played like 700 snaps the last 2 years combined. And that's why he was out in Green Bay, is because of the injury concerns. And so it's like, well, why would the Ravens? And I know it's a $4 million deal with a maximum of 6. So it's nothing, but I think it comes down to the fact that you can just never have enough good corners. And that's exactly why the Browns did not trade Greg Newsome. And there was a lot of talk about it because, I know Greg Newsome's been a bit of a roller coaster up and down, but I've seen proof that he can be a very viable corner on the inside and the outside. There have been times where he's been a very good corner for the Browns. And there's been times where he's been very mediocre, but, you can never have enough good corners to cover in this league, especially considering that you're going in the AFC where you've got Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. And for us, we have Lamar. Obviously, that doesn't affect the Ravens. But you get my point is there's a lot. It's a gauntlet of very good quarterbacks. So you've got to be ready to try to combat that if you want to get to the Super Bowl. And the Browns showed you can win with really good defense in 2023. And so the Ravens said, well, what if we have a really good offense and a really good defense? We get as many cover corners as possible. They have like 5 first-round picks in that backfield now, and so it's so many high-powered offenses. How do you combat that? You get a lot of really good cover corners, and you roll the dice on some of these guys that have had injury concerns, because when they're on the field, they give you an advantage, and they really help you combat some of these awesome quarterbacks that you'll face in the AFC playoffs.
Jacob Roach, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out. Orange and Brown Report. He also is the co-host of the Barking Browns podcast. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.